Captain J. Park stared into the vast darkness of space, his weathered hands gripping the command console of the battleship Valkyrie. Around him, the ship hummed with a quiet tension that spoke of humanity's last desperate moments. 17 ships remained, the final remnant of Earth's once mighty space fleet. The galactic hegemony's massive warships stretched across the Orion sector like a metallic nightmare. Their sleek, crystalline hulls reflected the distant starlight, each vessel representing centuries of technological superiority that had systematically crushed human resistance. This was supposed to be humanity's final hour. Hannah Kim, the ship's first officer, approached with a data tablet. Her fingers moved quickly, revealing the grim statistics. "We're outnumbered 200 to 1, she said softly. The numbers didn't just represent ships, but the potential extinction of the human race. The hegemony had been ruthless. Planet after planet had fallen. Earth itself was now just a memory, a burned-out shell of a world that once hosted billions. The few remaining human colonies were scattered, hidden, waiting for a miracle that seemed impossible. They think we're finished," Jay muttered, his eyes never leaving the approaching alien fleet. Each of those ships carried weapons that could obliterate entire continents with a single shot. Their energy signatures alone were enough to make most species surrender immediately. But not humans. A young communications officer named Park Jun broke the silence. "Sir, we're receiving final transmissions from the remaining colonies." His voice cracked slightly. These weren't military reports, but personal messages, final words from families, from children, from the last survivors of humanity. Jay listened to fragments of those transmissions. A mother singing a lullaby. A child's laugh. An old man reciting poetry. Each sound was a reminder of what they were fighting to preserve. The alien fleet began to move. Their formation was perfect, a mathematical precision that spoke of centuries of calculated warfare. They didn't see humans as worthy opponents, but as a species to be systematically removed. Just another civilization to be erased from the galactic record. Hannah's hand touched a hidden control panel. Something special was waiting, a last-ditch strategy that went beyond conventional warfare. Years of secret preparation, of studying humanity's most aggressive historical fighting techniques, were about to be tested. "Weapon systems are charged," she reported. But there was something different in her voice. Not fear. Not desperation. Something closer to anticipation. The first wave of hegemony missiles launched. They moved faster than light, designed to obliterate entire planetary sectors in milliseconds. Their guidance systems were perfect, their destructive potential absolute. But something was different about the human ships. They moved differently. Not with the rigid precision of standard military tactics, but with an almost organic unpredictability. Each ship seemed to dance between incoming projectiles, creating patterns that defied standard combat algorithms. Jay allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The aliens had studied human military history. They knew our battles, our wars, our technologies. But they never understood the most important thing about humans. Our spirit. The Valkyrie's bridge crew worked with a synchronized intensity. They weren't just operating a ship, they were continuing a legacy that stretched back thousands of years. Every movement was a statement. Every action a defiance against extinction. "Prepare Viking protocol," Jay commanded. The words meant nothing to the alien fleet. But they would soon learn. Space around the human ships began to shimmer. Something was changing. The cold mathematical precision of the alien attack was about to meet something they could never understand, the raw, uncontrollable fury of a species pushed to its absolute limit. Humanity's last stand was about to begin. Deep beneath the surface of a forgotten moon, a secret research facility hummed with quiet intensity. For decades, while the galactic hegemony believed humans were on the brink of extinction, a small group of scientists and military strategists had been working on something extraordinary. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the sterile white corridors, her fingers tracing holographic data streams that flickered around her. Decades of research into human genetic memory, cultural warfare, and technological adaptation were about to reach their final stage. The project had started as a crazy idea. What if humans could tap into the collective memories of their most aggressive ancestors? Not just remember, but actually channel the warrior spirit that had helped civilizations survive through impossible odds. Viking warriors had been more than just fighters. They were innovators, explorers, survivors. Their culture represented something the alien hegemony could never understand: the ability to transform challenge into opportunity. In a massive circular chamber, hundreds of research modules contained what looked like impossible technology. Genetic reconstructors worked alongside quantum computing systems. Neural interfaces connected with historical data archives. Each machine represented a piece of a complex puzzle. June Park, a young researcher with wild eyes and even wilder ideas, was explaining the core concept to a group of skeptical military commanders. "We're not just creating a weapon," he said. "We're creating a cultural resonance device. Something that can transmit not just sound, but emotion. Fighting spirit." The commanders looked uncertain. But they were out of options. Years of genetic research had revealed something fascinating about human DNA. Buried deep within their genetic code were markers that connected current generations to their most resilient ancestors. The Viking warriors weren't just a historical footnote, they were a genetic blueprint of survival. The research team had discovered how to activate these dormant genetic memories. More importantly, they found a way to translate those memories into technological advantages. Their prototype weapons weren't just machines. They were living systems that could adapt, think, and respond with the same unpredictability as their Viking ancestors. Each ship would become more than a vehicle, it would become a warrior with its own spirit. Hannah Kim, who would later become the first officer of the Valkyrie, had been instrumental in developing the psychological warfare components. She understood that true warfare wasn't just about destroying enemy ships. It was about breaking their spirit. The team developed transmission frequencies that could disrupt alien communication systems. But these weren't just technical disruptions. They were designed to trigger deep psychological responses, transmitting the raw, primal energy of human warrior culture. Ancient battle chants. The sound of drums. Vocal frequencies that mimicked the psychological warfare techniques of Norse raiders. Each element was carefully studied, reconstructed, and integrated into their technological systems. "We're turning our history into a weapon," June would often say. And he was right. The hegemony had studied human military history. They knew our past battles, our technologies. But they never understood the most critical element: the human ability to transform, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. As the final preparations were completed, the research team knew they were creating something unprecedented. This wasn't just a military strategy. This was a cultural resurrection. The Viking protocol was ready. Humanity's last hope was no longer just about survival. It was about showing the galaxy who they truly were. In hidden facilities across abandoned human colonies, identical preparations were being made. Each location was a node in a complex, living network ready to unleash a fury that the galactic hegemony could never comprehend. The countdown to humanity's most unexpected counterattack had begun. And no one in the galaxy saw it coming. The moment the hegemony's fleet entered weapons range, something extraordinary began to happen. The human ships weren't just changing, they were transforming in ways that defied every known law of spacecraft engineering. Holographic imagery of Viking warriors flickered across the Valkyrie's hull. Ancient Norse symbols began to pulse with an electric blue energy, dancing across metal surfaces like living creatures. The ships moved differently now, no longer following standard military trajectories, but weaving with an almost organic unpredictability. Captain J. Park watched in fascination as the Viking protocol activated. The ship responded to his thoughts before he could even give verbal commands. It was as if the vessel had become an extension of human consciousness, wild, unpredictable, and absolutely terrifying. Alien sensors went crazy. The human ships were changing their electromagnetic signatures faster than computer systems could track. One moment, a ship would appear in one location, and in the next split second, it would be somewhere completely unexpected. Traditional targeting systems collapsed under the impossible movements. The first wave of hegemony missiles launched perfect mathematical trajectories designed to eliminate their targets with surgical precision. But the human ships began to move in patterns that looked more like a dance than a defensive maneuver. They twisted, turned, and seemingly phased through incoming projectiles. Commander Rethal of the Hegemony flagship watched in growing horror. These weren't the same humans they had been hunting for decades. Something fundamental had changed. Each human ship now broadcast a continuous stream of psychological warfare signals. Ancient battle chants mixed with quantum frequency disruptions. The alien crews began to experience inexplicable psychological responses. Navigation systems became confused. Communication networks started to break down. Hannah Kim managed the ship's new systems with an almost supernatural calm. Her fingers danced across holographic controls that seemed to anticipate her movements. The ship was no longer just a machine, it had become a living weapon that carried the spirit of human survival. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was cultural. The human ships began to attack not with clean, precise military strikes, but with the wild, unpredictable fury of ancient raiders. They would strike, disappear, and then reappear in completely unexpected locations. Quantum entanglement systems allowed the ships to exist in multiple states simultaneously. They could be in one location and another at the same instant. Traditional sensors couldn't track them. Weapons couldn't target them. The hegemony fleet found itself fighting an enemy that didn't follow any known rules of warfare. The human ships moved like living creatures, diving between massive alien vessels, striking with precision, then vanishing before a counterattack could be mounted. Energy weapons that should have destroyed entire ships seemed to slide off the human vessels. The Norse holographic imagery wasn't just a visual effect, it was actually creating adaptive energy shields that absorbed and redirected incoming attacks. "They're using our own technology against us," Commander Rethal muttered in disbelief. The human ships were adapting faster than any computer could calculate. Each attack made them stronger, more unpredictable. The battle stopped being a military engagement. It became something else entirely, a demonstration of human potential that the hegemony had never believed possible. Smaller human ships began to coordinate attacks with a synchronization that looked almost like a choreographed dance. They moved as a single organism, each vessel anticipating the movements of others without any apparent communication. Alien weapon systems began to fail. Communication networks collapsed. The perfect, mathematically precise hegemony fleet started to break apart under the psychological and technological assault. Something remarkable was happening. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were showing the galaxy exactly who they were, a species that could transform challenge into opportunity, that could turn historical memory into a weapon more powerful than any technology. David Rodriguez activated the cultural warfare systems with a precision that felt almost sacred. The massive transmission arrays began to pulse with frequencies that carried more than just sound, they carried the entire emotional history of human survival. Ancient battle chants from 1,000 generations echoed through alien communication networks. These weren't just recordings, they were carefully engineered psychological weapons designed to break the hegemony's mental resistance. The first alien crews started experiencing strange reactions. Navigation officers heard sounds that triggered deep genetic memories of conflict. Communication systems became flooded with rhythmic sounds that defied technological understanding. Some alien crew members began to shake uncontrollably. Others stared blankly at their screens, overwhelmed by sensations they couldn't comprehend. Commander Rethal watched in growing terror as his perfectly organized fleet began to disintegrate from within. The human attacks weren't just physical, they were attacking the very psychological foundation of alien warfare. Quantum frequency transmissions carried the sound of Viking drums. The rhythmic beating matched exactly with the neurological stress frequencies that triggered panic responses in multiple alien species. Each beat was a weapon more precise than any missile. The human ships broadcast entire cultural experiences. Fragments of human history, moments of survival, resistance, and unbreakable spirit. Transformed into energy signals that penetrated alien communication systems. It wasn't just information. It was pure emotional warfare. Alien sensor systems began to fail. Where they expected clean, mathematical signals, they found chaotic human transmissions that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The signals carried the raw energy of human determination, something no technological system could fully understand or block. Some alien crews started experiencing hallucinations. They saw images of human warriors from different historical periods: Viking raiders, Spartan soldiers, resistance fighters from forgotten wars. These weren't just visual transmissions. They were psychological infiltration weapons that attacked the very core of alien understanding. The human cultural assault went beyond traditional warfare. They were teaching the hegemony a lesson about the nature of survival. Each transmission carried the message: humanity would never be defeated. Never be erased. Psychological disruption systems targeted specific alien species' genetic weaknesses. The transmissions knew exactly how to trigger deep-seated fears, how to create confusion, how to break down complex communication networks. Alien commanders watched in horror as their perfectly organized fleet began to break apart. Ships that were designed for mathematical precision suddenly found themselves unable to maintain basic communication. The human attacks had transformed warfare into something the hegemony could never understand. David Rodriguez continued to manage the cultural warfare systems with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. Each transmission was a carefully crafted weapon, part technology, part cultural memory, part pure human spirit. The battle was no longer about destroying ships. It was about demonstrating the incredible adaptability of human consciousness. Every alien vessel that fell was a testament to humanity's ability to turn history into a weapon. Quantum entanglement systems allowed human ships to broadcast multiple cultural experiences simultaneously. One moment, an alien crew would hear Viking battle chants. The next, they would experience fragments of human resistance movements. The psychological assault was relentless and impossible to predict. Commander Rethal realized something terrifying: the humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to prove a point about the nature of consciousness, about the power of cultural memory, about the incredible potential of a species pushed to its absolute limit. The cultural warfare continued. Each transmission carried the collective memory of human survival. Each signal was a reminder that humanity was more than just a technological species. They were survivors. They were adapters. They were unstoppable. And the galaxy was about to learn that lesson in the most dramatic way possible. The human ships continued their assault, broadcasting a message that was clear and powerful: we are humanity. And we will never be defeated. The battle lasted less than 3 hours, but it would be remembered for generations. Captain J. Park watched as the last hegemony ships began to retreat. What had started as humanity's potential extinction had transformed into the most remarkable military victory in galactic history. The 17 human ships had destroyed over 300 alien vessels. Not through traditional warfare, but through a combination of technological innovation and pure human spirit that defied all known combat strategies. Alien communication networks collapsed completely. Their perfectly calculated battle formations had dissolved into pure chaos. Where mathematical precision once ruled, now there was only confusion and terror. Commander Rethal's flagship was the last to retreat. Its communication systems were completely destroyed, its crew traumatized by the psychological assault they had experienced. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had fundamentally broken their understanding of warfare. Hannah Kim monitored the final stages of the battle. The Viking protocol had worked perfectly. Each human ship had become more than a weapon, it was a living testament to human resilience. They had transformed ancient warrior culture into a technological marvel that the galaxy had never seen before. The quantum entanglement systems continued to pulse with energy. Holographic Norse imagery still danced across the ship's hulls, a reminder of the cultural warfare that had just been unleashed. The human vessels moved like living creatures, each one a complex system that combined technology, cultural memory, and pure survival instinct. Transmission arrays continued to broadcast. Not attack signals anymore, but something more powerful: the collective memory of human survival. Fragments of battles, moments of resistance, the pure spirit of a species that refused to be defeated. David Rodriguez began compiling the battle data. What had just happened wasn't just a military victory. It was a fundamental redefinition of how warfare could be conducted. The humans had shown that culture could be a weapon more powerful than any technology. The remaining human colonies began to receive the first signals of victory. Scattered across distant star systems, they watched in amazement as their final fleet not only survived but completely transformed the galactic power structure. J. Park allowed himself a moment of reflection. They had been preparing for this moment for decades. Every moment of human history, every struggle, every resistance, every survival had led to this point. The hegemony had made a critical mistake. They had believed humans were just another species to be conquered. They never understood the fundamental truth about humanity, that when pushed to the absolute limit, humans become something extraordinary. Alien species across the galaxy would soon learn about the battle. The transmission of what happened would spread faster than light, carrying with it a simple message: humanity was not just a surviving species. They were a force to be reckoned with. The 17 ships began to regroup. Their movements were synchronized, almost like a dance. Each vessel carried the collective memory of human survival, each system a complex network of technological and cultural innovation. Hannah Kim's voice broke the silence on the bridge. "Viking protocol complete," she reported. But there was something more in her voice: pride, determination, a sense of something fundamental having changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not just survived. They had demonstrated their true potential. As the human fleet began its journey back to the remaining colonies, they carried with them more than just a victory. They carried a message that would resonate across star systems: humanity might be pushed to the brink, but they would never be defeated. The triumph was complete. And it was just the beginning.